Yes, we understand the interest of that man, and your history has been profoundly marked by that one man, only because it's more your latest, biggest impact on history. So while there have been others who were just as diligent with their own agenda, he is certainly the one you are most familiar with because he is the most recent. His life purpose was to show the world what passion for one country can be. And when you taunt someone who is very passionate about their country, you will see their wrath. He thought all that he was doing for his country was to show the world that his country was valid and important and needed respect. And he felt deeply hurt by how his country had been treated prior. And so he aimed to get his fellow men together to feel the strength and to be empowering themselves, because he didn't believe that they should have been put aside. He had such great passion. He wanted to bring his country up in the world and have the honor that he firmly believed they should have. And so he did get a lot of support that way because his diligence and passion was resonating with people at a profound level. It wasn't until later in his life and in his career that he did succumb to the drugs, which many may not even understand or even were aware of, that he was influenced by drugs, which did influence his mind. He did become very addicted to it. The pressure of his job and the role he was doing did take a lot of toll on his mental well-being. And when you are doing so much of the drugs he was taking, it was distracting him, and he was feeling the pressure of moving the country forward and to dominate the world with his belief systems of how he will make everyone pay who did not support his country. And there was many agendas he wasn't even aware of that were prodding and supporting him and propping him up. And so it did go straight to his ego, the pressure of him with his purpose and mission to make his country the best, almost made him, drive him mad with power. And he wanted to just get ahead at any cost. There were other people behind him, below him, that had their more sadistic fascinations, more completely inhumane. And so while he was aware that these other things were happening, he didn't have an absolute direct hand in it. There were many people who were doing many bad crimes against humanity at that time. And while his name is the most predominant name, there were definitely others that were just as guilty of not having compassion for others and for humanity. And it was a big purpose and lesson for the world to wake up and see what you were doing to each other. It should have really woken you up all then. I should have never got that out of hand. All of the inquiries should have been more stronger to be able to find out really what on earth was actually happening. However, the people who were financing and supporting this war were also the people that were the major players in most countries. And so it was very beneficial to have this big war, because there was money to be made. And that is usually the biggest motivator for anything, is the money. And while there was great tragedy and loss, all of those souls did come in to have those contracts, hoping to be able to awaken humanity. But the force and the peer pressure and the threat of standing up for what was morally right cost you your lives, cost you the lives of your family and friends. And so it was nearly impossible for people to stand up. And of course, because the real purpose of those wars were not disclosed publicly, because it was manufactured as a business, it really was manufactured as a business for certain families to grow their wealth and keep control of the planet. And while you know them for something else now, they're still the same families. The crimes against humanity haven't just occurred this century. It's been going on for quite some time. It just looks different from behind the scenes. And publicly, you're only allowed to see a very thin veneer. You're only allowed to see a very thin veneer of their angle of what you are allowed and be privileged to view. And it's a very, very, very controlled and manipulated angle. You've never been allowed to see the full truth. That was never, ever going to be allowed by them. You are never to know who funds wars, who props up the people in power. You were never to know that. You were never meant to know that. This is why the truth now coming out terrifies them. Well, it did when they were still alive. And they've all been disarmed now. All have been dispowered. It is just merely fine-tuning the last little stitches, pushing down the last few dominoes, just to be able to let all of the gates and all the doors open, and for things to roll out forward. It has been such a long journey to correct these families from getting out of hand. They are constantly up wanting each other. They constantly feel threatened by each other. They constantly have to figure out how to keep their own control. And so it's a bigger game here. They're not in harmony all the time. And this is the problem. This is when you see certain things happen, other new events that happen that seem like terrorist attacks or something else. Again, when you get the very thin veneer of truth and information and in quotation marks news, you're never really able to know the true purpose of many of those events, because many of those events were squabbling amongst the bigger families, squabbling amongst families within themselves. And so while you're all set into terror and fear and worried about attacks of terrorism, natural disasters, and a whole lot of other things, including that virus, it hasn't been the true truth. And you've always been encouraged to feel vulnerable, fragile, unsafe, and alone, and most importantly, unloved. And this is something that they, on the veneer side, look like they do endorse, but yet everything else they're doing to you is giving you the opposite effect. From the foods that they are providing for you, so you have no other options, to the air that you're breathing with the pollutants and the other added pollutants you are not always aware of, to the water and the compromisations that they have given there, to the supplements and, in quotation marks, health assistance medications, were all to impact you. And that's very challenging for you, as you know, to keep your hearts open and to feel good within yourselves, to not be afraid. And we all know that this is a very challenging experience when you are being so heavily manipulated and controlled which does go exactly opposite what the purpose of this lifetime was, which was to explore this experience with the heavier emotions and density. But it was never supposed to get this out of hand. You're all supposed to be able to overcome adversities and grow naturally and strengthen and find yourselves without too much of a challenge. And so if we say that you came to Earth to experience a challenging lifetime, but it was going to be possible and fun, and instead you've actually discovered you're in an extremely advanced, high level, complex situation, which is so hard to navigate through, it's almost impossible. And so when you look around and you see all of your friends and family that are completely oblivious to the actual truth and who are still digesting and trusting the mainstream media and what their professionals are telling them, and they're still not able to actually think for themselves yet because that has been disengaged at a very early age from them, you can understand how they have become this way. It's not because they are ignorant and they're just not interested. They have done their due diligence as a citizen of this world to live amongst the rules and to be a good rule follower. And unfortunately, that actually hasn't made you, shall we say, win or be awake. Following the rules actually has never been able to help you. Following the rules actually damages you more because you trust health professionals more. You can understand why trusting the professionals is their big agenda, because they want to control you. And this is why you all have had profound levels of trust issues, because while you feel like no one has directly lied to your face, you feel that this world and this lifetime is a forgery. It's never sat well with you how things have played out. But when everyone else is telling you, yeah, that's typical, such is life, they're confirming with you all the time, every time you want to start questioning something, that it's like, well, that's just the way things are. And you're so used to just shrugging off common sense, shrugging off the blatant lies and the inconsistencies that you've been told as just, well, I don't understand it. It must be me because I must be stupid because the professionals are telling me something different. So I'll just blindly trust the professionals. What we have been trying to say to you through all of these messages is that you can only trust yourselves. You can only trust what resonates with you truly and deeply, and never listening to anyone else who is trying to tell you to trust them or their information or their process. It's a learning journey, and if you try to jump on board with someone's process and information at their own level, you don't have the foundation stones to get you to that level yourself. And so it's going to be very unstable because you've got nothing to base it on. And it is a massive leap forward. And it is very, feels very unsturdy. And so let's say your spiritual path is a brick wall. Again, we'll use the analogy of the wall. And every true stepping stone that you have is the foundation levels of that. And now you're basically nearly at the top of your brick wall and you have built it beautifully and perfectly. But then you're going to have to go back and see where some of the things didn't quite fit right because it was other people's opinions that you took upon as your own. And while everyone's trying to help you and help everyone else to awaken and find the truths, you've all been victim to hearing someone else's truth that hasn't actually been any truth. And so you can unpack that as you will. So this is important for you to be able to build your own truth, your own strengthened wall of spirituality. and you do not have to follow anyone else's path but your own. But when you do try to have a bigger wall and try to understand someone else's truth that's at a bigger, higher level, you don't have any support for that. And so it's important for you to do your own smaller inner work. And you can't jump stones, you can't jump levels and layers as much as some of you may want to. And so this is why it truly is your own journey. You can't miss big gaping holes. You want that wall to be so solid, so sturdy, so reassured. Every piece of that wall was placed there on purpose because you know without a doubt. So you want to refocus on that wall now and see how there it is going, and what still seems a bit sticky or a little bit weak or unbalanced. Just unpack that and see where the information is not connecting as much. We know that you all want to be advanced in this and understand this. And we could give you all of the answers, but that would completely defeat your principle and purpose of coming to this lifetime. And as we do know, it is an extremely harder lifetime, that we all were not actually going to be, you were not prepared for this advanced, challenged lifetime. But as it continued on, there was definitely great growth. And that was valuable, very, very, very valuable. And so we know we've gone off topic from the original person we were speaking to. But we also wanted to be able to say to you that when you're looking at things from a higher perspective, on top of your spiritual wall that you have built yourself, there is going to be no monster in history that you will not be able to be neutral with and be okay with. Not because you accept their atrocities, but because you see it for a bigger purpose. You see that there was an opportunity for man to grow, and it hasn't been fair. We understand that when you want to have justice in the world, nothing has been just in the world for a very long time. And this is what you have to accept as well. This is another lesson here. We understand it doesn't feel right. But when you stop judging things out of good versus bad, and when you just have to accept, and when you can accept, not because we've just told you to accept, when you are able to accept, everything has a purpose and a lesson. And that is how we must view all things that we have been challenged with. It will be just such a peaceful state of mindset and being when you know that. And so we wish you all the luck as you unpack that. And we also know that if there's anything in your past that you don't want to deal with because you feel that there is going to be shame or guilt or embarrassment or some emotion that feels negative, and we encourage you now to do it. And you will be so surprised with your bigger mindset when you unpick things from the past that you have not wanted to deal with. You actually might be pleasantly surprised. You may actually realize you are not the guilty party here or the bad doer. So explore that. We encourage you to explore that and see how that works out for you now with the bigger perspective. Were you the victim truly? Were you not empowering yourself? Did you not tell your full truth? What is it that still sticks with you? And if you're thinking, well, I'm totally fine, everything's good, we'll just double check that with you now. Is there any one person that you would never want to contact? Is there any one person that you just would avoid seeing, thinking about doing? Yes, that person. Consider why. Recall back now why you have that aversion to that person. And then replay it. Now, talk to us about that. Talk to us about how that person did that thing to you and then you did that thing. Explain it to yourself and just talk it out, and then you'll see with the bigger picture and the bigger purpose. You've suddenly unraveled that Oh, look, it doesn't have emotion anymore to it because you see purpose. You've got that beautiful hindsight of where you've seen better growth after learning those lessons. So don't be afraid of the baggage that you have, because it will just truly empower you when you actually start unpacking that. And that is very exciting when you actually understand that. And again, if there is something that you have done that you are embarrassed about, and you know you have done something that wasn't so great, look at all the times you have done it again since then. Is it time for you to forgive yourself for having an experience that you learned and grew from? We think so. We think so. So this is a marvelous day to be able to love yourself profoundly and release anything that's no longer serving you. And enjoy your time. Enjoy feeling okay with everyone, and enjoy feeling okay about everything. If there is any situation, location, event, anything that still gives you hesitation to explore, we encourage you now in this beautiful time with this beautiful energy to consider it and ponder it. You could do so much work as soon as you set your mind to being able to clear your closet. And we say this with so much love. Have a fantastic day.